Hi guys and welcome back to my channel. The case that I'm going to be looking into today is the case of Becky Watts. It was pretty big in the UK at the time of it occurring in 2015 and Becky was just 16 years old. This case was suggested by Brittany, so thank you for that. I appreciate any suggestions you guys have, and of course if you do have any more, please do let me know. Rebecca Marie, also known as by everyone as Becky or Bex, Watts, was born on the 3rd of June in 1998 to parents Tanya and Darren. Now, her parents did actually split up before she was even born. And of course, when she was born, she was living with her mother, Tanya, but then, I don't know, there were some claims of potential abuse or possible abuse or concerns over it. And so she did end up go to live with her father, Darren Galsworthy, but he had a partner at the time who was called Angie, and Angie also had a son of her own who was called Nathan, and he was 12 years older than Becky. You know, growing up, she was a happy child, but then as she got a little bit older, things started to change, and you know, she wasn't as happy as she always was. She started suffering with a disorder when it came to food, because she said that people used to tease her about her weight, and it was her classmates and also her brother, her stepbrother Nathan Matthews. He used to apparently tease her too. So you know, that really got down, of course, and then she ended up with this eating disorder. She ended up in hospital for a while, and basically when they eventually diagnosed her with this, she actually left school for a little while and carried on her education in a hospital setting. She did that for about a year and things were going really well. And then she seemed to sort of droop back down again. But, you know, as she got older, as she ended up in her teenage years, things were really looking up. She was really happy again. She was really close with her dad. And she was really excited about the future. She had a boyfriend. His name was Luke. He was a trainee mechanic, was 1 year older than her. You know, everything was just really good for her. She did suffer a lot with anxiety, with social anxiety, and that was to the point where she literally wouldn't even get on a bus and ask for a ticket, because she would much rather walk than get on a bus and ask the driver for a ticket. So like social things like that, but that probably stemmed from her being bullied, which is just so devastating. Regardless of that, she seems to be doing really well. So she did have a bit of a rough start in life, but you know, everything was looking up. It was found out later that, much too late, one of the root of her problems was actually her stepbrother Nathan. We will get more into that as we go through though. So we're now on the 18th February 2015. Becky went to this rugby club party. It was like a midterm break, something like that. So they all go to this party, they enjoy themselves. I believe Nathan was there too. And then she actually stayed at one of her friends' houses. They were loving life, playing games, watching films, you know, just enjoying the time that they spent together. Then, the next day, the 19th, she goes back home, and Angie was there. She's chatting away to her stepmom, and, you know, I believe that they were very close as well. She basically raised her, because, like I said, she was less than one when she moved in with them. So, they were all very close, well, apart from, like, Nathan. Now, Nathan had a condition called fibromyalgia, where he was in a lot of pain all the time. He couldn't keep a job down. He had a girlfriend who he had been with a long-term relationship. He'd been with her for many years. She was called Shauna Hoare. He began that relationship when he was in his early 20s, and she was 14, which obviously is just like so wrong anyway, but there you go. And their relationship, by all accounts, was not very good. They lived together in a different house, and they would often come around to like his parents' house, and his girlfriend actually became a carer for Angie, who suffered with multiple sclerosis. So, you know, they were around there quite a lot anyway. Getting back to the day in particular, Angie actually was in the house with Becky. She was chatting away, right, and she ended up having this hospital appointment for her MS. So she leaves the house shortly after 11 AM, and when she got back, Becky was not in the house anymore. Now, the issue with this was, as I have already told you, she really struggled with anxiety, social anxiety. You know, it was really bad for her. So for her to not be in the house was pretty strange anyway. She wasn't one of them who would just go out very often. You know what I mean? She just wasn't really normal for her. Her dad said that she was very shy and timid and that she was just super reserved, so it was strange. Obviously she had friends and stuff, but she would always keep in touch and tell people where she was, so it was just really strange. Then the next day comes along and nobody has seen her, heard from her whatsoever, and her dad calls the police and reports her as missing. When the police got there, they looked around, you know, and the normal things like phone, laptop were missing from her house, but she hadn't taken any clothes, no money, nothing like that. All of that was still there when they checked her bedroom. When people tried to call her, text her, there was just nothing. It just went straight to my voicemail, which again wasn't like her. She was always on her phone. In fact, just sort of the day that she actually went missing, she was texting her boyfriend Luke, and he was the last person to receive a text off her actually, because they're just chatting away and then he starts like replying like hello, because she's not responding. So, you know, he was the last person that she texted. And with her always being in touch with Luke, her friend, you know, even her family, and just hearing nothing for like a full day now was just not normal. It just wasn't. And then her friends started asking where she was, so that just scared people even more, because you think, I believe at first it maybe was thought that potentially she was at a friend's hiding away or something like that, and somebody was hiding her. I believe they went on, when her parents did like a public appeal, that is what they were saying, you know, if your friends know where she is and you're hiding her, please, we just want her to come home, we just want to know she's safe, she's not in any trouble, kind of thing. So that is what they assumed. But then when all the friends are contacting them saying that, where is she, we don't know where she is, it was just so awful for the family, because not even her friends knew where she was. So she was certainly missing, and it didn't seem like it was of her own accord. And then, you know, her case gained massive sort of notoriety in the public. It was everywhere. Have you seen Becky Watts? There was flyers, there was just, she was all over the news. Police were organising searches, the family was organising searches, communities were getting involved, they were just doing everything they could to try and find her. There was a local body of water near St. George's Park, which was not too far from the home. They were searching all that, getting the divers out and things like that, just everything they could, but they found nothing. Then it actually came out when the police interviewed Angie that initially it was thought that Becky was alone in the house when Angie left and then came back and she wasn't there. You know, there was not known to be anybody in that house. However, Angie started going on about how Shauna had said that she heard Becky slam the door and assumed that she had left. But it, you know, we thought at first that nobody was in the house when Becky left, but it turns out that someone was telling some lies, because Nathan and Shauna was actually there. So of course they begin talking to them. They obviously now were the last people to have thought to have seen her, or at least heard her, is what they claimed. They claimed that, I believe Shauna said that when she got there, she went outside to have a cigarette and feed a rabbit with her child or something like that. And then she heard the door slam just a little after 11. The thing is, I've watched her interview. She tells you step by step exactly what she did, to the point where she goes, I went into the kitchen, I washed my hands, I dried my hands, I went from there to here, I did this, I picked up this. And just without really knowing too much about the case at that point, and just watching that video alone got myself very suspicious, because her story just seemed so on the ball, like she knew everything that she had done. It was as if, to me, that it was rehearsed, if you get what I mean, because she just, like, say, personally, I don't remember everything I've done. So on that particular day, I'd be like, yeah, I went and got a drink, and then I went outside or something like that. I wouldn't be giving the exact specific details of literally every little thing that I did, because I wouldn't even remember it. Do you know what I mean? So I found it very strange, personally. And not only that, the police found it strange too. They found that hers and Nathan's story was literally super interlocked, that, you know, probably they sounded like they'd been rehearsed too, together. They were so on par with each other that's what it seemed like. Not only that, they were very much avoiding being interviewed by the police, which was obscure, of course, because, you know, they were super close with poor Becky. So surely they want her to be found. Surely they want to give the police everything that they can. But they were avoiding them, although they claim that they weren't, of course. They even brought that up in a second interview with Shauna, who was like, nah, I'm not avoiding you, don't worry about it. Nor is Nathan. Also, during these interviews, Nathan and Shauna apparently both mentioned how they weren't Becky's biggest fan. Nathan felt like she was very self-centered. She, I don't know, he didn't like how she treated his mother and her father. So she just wasn't their biggest fan. The police go back again to the house, they search it once more, and this is where they find a fingerprint on Becky's door that is red. They test that, and obviously the labs take a while to do the testing, of course they do. So they don't know whose it is straight away, but it looks like a fingerprint in blood on Becky's door. And I mean, at that point, they were really hoping that she was still alive. Everyone's looking around, trying to find Becky. They have this fingerprint and the blood, and they're testing it all, and it comes back that the fingerprint is none other than, who do you think? Well, Nathan's. Yeah, you guessed it right, if you guessed it right within that short bit of time that I gave you to guess it. It was Nathan's, and then eventually the blood came back that it was Becky's blood. So now you're thinking, well, why on earth has Nathan got a bloody fingerprint on Becky's door? Why? So they interview him again, and like I said, they're still at this point hoping that Becky may be alive somewhere. If these two people did something to her, that maybe they kidnapped her, maybe she is still alive. They interview him again, asking like, is Becky okay? And he responds with, I don't know, I didn't do anything, I don't know where she is, kind of thing, still acting all innocent. They're asking Shauna if there's anything she knows that's significant in the disappearance of Becky, and she sits there for like, I'll put a clip in if I can, but she's like thinking. It's as if she's thinking like, should I tell him? She sits there thinking for absolutely ages on 2 questions, and then the interviewer says like, I know you want to tell me something, why don't you just tell me? She's like, oh no, I was just thinking about anything that I could have missed and making sure that I didn't miss anything significant, and I didn't. So it was just, the interview really caught her off guard. She wasn't prepared for it, kind of thing. That's what it seemed like. And yeah, she was messing up left, right and centre.
No. Are you absolutely sure? Yes. I know you've got something to tell us. I can see it in your face.
I was just making sure there was nothing, like a weird, significant thing that I hadn't thought of. I don't know anything.
What they decided to do is they had like enough evidence to search the home of obviously Nathan and Shauna, and they go in and it's an absolute crap hole. There's just garbage everywhere. They have so much stuff. Like, 2 people shouldn't even have that much stuff in a house. It's just rammed, like literally rammed, right? And it's not very clean. It's pretty dirty. So they're looking around, and then they come to the bathroom and they find a immaculate and very spotlessly clean bathtub compared to the rest of the house, which is like a bomb's hit. So that's also very weird, right? And very suspicious. What do a lot of people do in bathtubs when people are missing? I wonder. They carry on looking around the house. They find receipts from this hardware store. This was dated on the 20th of February, which was the day after Becky had gone missing. And Nathan was, where they looked at CCTV, Nathan was there and Shauna was there. And they ended up buying a few different supplies and a circular saw. What do you think that they needed a circular saw for in the bathtub that was immaculately clean? They were then both arrested on suspicion of murder, of course. I believe it was on the 3rd of March 2015 that they finally admitted some sort of guilt, but it wasn't the truthful story what happened, by all means, because Nathan admitted that he did actually kill Becky, but it was an accident. What he'd actually planned on doing was kidnapping her because he hated how she treated, you know, both of their parents, well, his stepdad and his mum. And so he wanted to teach her a lesson, so he decided that he was going to kidnap her and like scare her. But he accidentally suffocated her in the process of trying to teach her a lesson by kidnapping her. I mean, how does that even happen? Well, it doesn't really, because kidnapping someone is not it doesn't require suffocation. Let me just put it that way. They also then found these text messages that were sent between Shauna and Nathan that, you know, were very weird. Not normal conversation by any means. So they were going on about how they had these fantasies with teenage girls, and one of the text messages that Shauna actually sent to Nathan said that she had spotted this teenage girl that was pretty, that would be perfect for him, and she actually was considering knocking her out and taking her home. Yeah, okay, that's just a normal conversation to have that. I mean, she replied to those as like, no comment, as advised by her lawyers, but she said that she was being sarcastic by it and it was all one big joke. But they had a lot of conversations about those and teenage girls and their fantasies about them. But it wasn't serious, you know, it was all joking, of course. I do believe that during the interview as well, Nathan did finally tell the police where her body was. They went to a neighbour's shed and they found her body and it had been dismembered. Obviously at the time it wasn't confirmed to be Becky straight away, but they did later confirm the remains to be that of Becky Watts. Then Shauna was going on about how her relationship with Nathan was really abusive, how she would sometimes have to ask him for food because he wouldn't let her eat. Just lots of stuff like that. She claimed that she had nothing to do with the murder, that she didn't know anything about it, even though she was caught in the CCTV, you know, buying a circular saw, so she must have done something about it. And then her DNA was actually found on some of the bags that Becky's body parts were in, so yeah, she didn't have nothing to do with it. When it actually came out what happened, basically that morning Becky came home from her friends and whatnot. I believe she went to her bedroom after that. Angie left, Nathan and Shauna came, and they had brought basically a kidnap kit. He had stun guns, whatever, in that bag. He was ready for what he was going to do. It seemed like after having the focus on the teenage girls and stuff, Becky kind of fit their description. So they decided that they were going to do it to her, I guess. And literally within minutes of Nathan entering Becky's room, she was deceased. He smothered her with a pillow and then he stabbed her multiple times all over her body just to make sure that he finished off the job, I guess. He then took her body, put it in his car boot, and he carried on being in the house while the family's coming and going, acting like normal, like nothing had happened. As I've said, at the time of the murder, Shauna said that she was outside having a fag. I think it's pretty much believed that, well, she didn't get charged for murder, so they don't think that she was the one that actually murdered her. And she pretty much denied knowledge of all of it. Anyway, the trial began on October of 2015 and Nathan pled guilty to manslaughter. He was just carrying on with his story of, I accidentally killed her, didn't mean to, was just trying to kidnap her and pretend. Yeah, he just carried on with that. Not that anyone believed him, especially since she had all these stab wounds and stuff, and then she was dismembered, but okay. Shauna was denying everything anyway, she had nothing to do with it, yada yada yada. The jury saw through all of the lies. They found Nathan guilty of murder, and he was sentenced to 33 years in prison at a minimum, and Shauna was also found guilty, but she wasn't found guilty for murder, hers was manslaughter, so she actually got 17 years minimum sentence in prison. Then I believe they appealed and their appeals were denied, which good, because what they did to Becky, it's like, it's so devastating, these cases, because the one person that you feel like you can trust is your own family, and you can't even trust them sometimes. Like, seriously, I mean, I trust mine with everything, but I just find it so sad that there's so many families out there that can't do that, or that do that but shouldn't, because they're murderous, evil people. It's just crazy. The mind boggles. It really does. Like, he murdered his sister, who he had known since he was 12. Well, his stepsister. Why? I don't even know why. He felt like she was self-centered and full of herself and didn't like how she treated her parents. That's his opinion of her. I'm not saying that that's how she was, because I don't know. But it seems more like it was more because of these fantasies of teenage girls that they had, and then she was a teenage girl, so they thought she was easy pickings. I don't know. I honestly don't know. I don't get it. I never will. And apparently Nathan ain't having a great time in prison, which good. He shouldn't do. It's just disgraceful. Apparently he got attacked with hot butter in 2017. So, yeah, that can't have been very pleasant for him. And Becky's father, Darren, was very happy about that. He said that that was the best birthday present that he could ever get. And I can't blame him for that. I really hope that none of them have a good time in prison and that they spend a long, long time there. Even longer than the sentence that they got, because they are just vicious, manipulative people. Horrible. But yeah, that is the end of the case. If you guys have enjoyed this video, give me a big thumbs up, subscribe to the channel for similar content. Anyway, that's all I have today on the case of Becky Watts. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, bye!